Welcome, everyone. We are back with another interview. We've been doing a series yesterday and today, interviewing our authors from Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic, which is this gorgeous book here. And it features 12 authors sharing stories about how they've overcome challenges by using something that was an innate gift. A lot of times it was something really unexpected. So really wonderful stories. I'm Corey Walmsley, CEO of Aurora Coriolis Publishing, and I was a lucky lady who got to actually work with all of these authors and help them finish this book. So today, right now, we have Sue Fattibene with us. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Corey. So good to be here with you.
Yay. And Sue and I have actually worked on books before together, so that was really cool. And we'll talk a little bit about all that stuff. So I'm going to let Sue introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what she does.
Okay, thank you, Corey. I am Sue Fattibene. I have Rev Up with Sue. I help you find your path in your exceptional life. There are things that you dream about, you have goals you want to accomplish, and I walk with you as a life coach and help you really drill it down, find the balance and a plan, and help you move forward with it. So it's really awesome to be able to spend time with individuals who are focused, ready to move in it and watch it happen. I say it's like from vision to accomplished.
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know what a life coach is or why you might need one, could you explain that just a little bit?
Well, I'm not a counselor. I mean, I can counsel, and sometimes there are hiccups in life that happen where that will hold us back. I mean, sometimes we're the ones who hold ourselves back more than anything else as obstacles, right? But I get to help them drill down what it looks like if you walk through this. How do we get you to that next piece of who you're meant to be? Like, what is your purpose? What is the plan? Sometimes it can be relational, it can be spiritual, it can be financial, emotional. Those things can be worked through with a life coach in different phases of your life. And I wish I had one of these when I was younger. That may have changed the trajectory of my life, but I didn't. But when I learned about it, I thought this is the most beautiful process to watch people come in and their uncertainties or their hopes and dreams, their things that are really bringing them down or things that give them incredible excitement, those aha moments, and watch it all come to fruition as they are creating that life plan. It's beautiful.
That is beautiful. I love that there are people out there helping others get through these challenges because
Yes.
like you were growing up, that was not a thing at all.
No, it really was not a thing. And maybe they were there and it may have been called something different, but I've been around the block a few times. So I don't recall having a life coach. And I really did need that when I was younger and I didn't understand it. And so I think it's really cool how my story of something that you and I worked on led me out of banking, out of my fears, and walking into what I felt like was my calling, my point, and my purpose at that point in my life.
Yeah. And I love, so first of all, I mentioned that Sue had written a previous book. Um, could you talk just briefly about your first book? Because I think that that kind of feeds next into the conversation about this book.
Okay, yes, thank you, Corey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Corey and I met at a conference through a mutual business partner. And it was real interesting how God designed that day, the weekend that we were together. I had no clue that my cancer to calling was going to be a story I would be putting out there to people to help them walk through their scenarios. And it's really a book for everybody. It was just my story and how God imparted on me. I was to no longer be a banker and I was going to move into life coaching and doing my arts and things like that. But it was one of those things that it was a 2-year journey through my cancer where I eventually became okay with saying yes. What I heard, what I sensed, what I dreamed, what I visioned, I started speaking it into fruition and I started walking through it. And there I was. I was a life coach. And then I became an author. And if you would have told me when I was younger Sue would have said, no, I will never be an author. That would be an imposter girl. And Corey said, let's hear your voice. I sat there. There's a scenario at that conference that happened. It was a turning point where I knew that God was moving me into my story to tell it to the world, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. And Corey introduced me to her Spark method. And so I took that book that she had written and I drilled that thing down fast and furiously. And I signed up with her to write my story. And it wasn't long after that that I had launched my first book. I became an author. The imposter syndrome was gone. And it was called the day, I wish I had it with me. I didn't even think about bringing it. The Day the Angel Sat Beside Me. Oh, look at you. So it's about God's calling me into my point and purpose, but talking me through it, through the crazy adversity and trauma I was going through with the cancer and the treatment. It was pretty awesome. Oh, look at you. She was amazing to work with too, y'all. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you.
You know, you really put me at ease when I was going through it, because there were so many scenarios of how do I get the story up and what do I do with it? And you walked me through that to where I became comfortable in my skin. I'm still not always comfortable in my skin because it was breast cancer. And I look at myself differently every single day, but then I rise up and know that this is the way I've been made for today. And my story, when I gave it over to you the last time, I cried for various reasons. I cried because it was no longer my story. I cried because it was given to you, the one who guided me through it. I cried because I knew it was going to the world and hopefully it's going to make changes in the lives of those who read it. And I was willing to say yes to that.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. I love all of those bigger things that came from the book too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we moved from The Day the Angel Sat Beside to Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic. And this was an opportunity for you to show another layer of your story. So tell me a little about what inspired you to join Unleashing.
Okay, so last year I did an anthology with another group. It was a devotional, and I was really inspired with how God spoke through a story, and it was very freeing to know that He showed me how when I became a life coach, the clients came, but it was in a very interesting place. It was at Disney World when He made that point and purpose in my life. Like, there they are. And it was 2015 when that story came about. Well, I didn't realize in the anthologies, it could be a story about anything at any point in your life, right? So you're launching your book last year, Braving the Shore.
Mhm.
And I'm there at your launch and you're like, I'm going to do an anthology. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. Another anthology. That's so cool. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'll like raise my hand to be a part of it. I was thinking, circle back to now. And I'm like, I just remember going, what? Where did that come from? Circle back to now. So I prayed on it. I did some meditation on it. And you had your application process, and I applied because I really felt like I was being prompted to do it. And now I know why. There was a story from when I was first in college. I didn't graduate the first time around. It was the time when I was given a scholarship to become a music therapist. And let's talk about that not being in the world at that time. I was going to be a pioneer. And the story that came from it was not what I realized. What God had placed in my heart was right about where you came from, what you went through, and where you are today, because now you've circled back and I have given you these skills, your music, you're working with people through coaching. Guess what? It's almost the same thing, a little different, but you are doing what I called you to do at this point in my life. So that's how it all came together.
Yeah. Yeah, so you kind of
Oh, no.
teased a little bit about, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I didn't know how it was going to flow out. That might be something you're going to ask. I didn't know in the end how it's going to come together. I struggled putting it together. And I told Corey, I'm struggling. And in the end, it all came together fast and furiously, but I understand why now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since you mentioned that, we're going to talk about that first. Tell people a little bit about how, like, your writing process, how you got the story out, because I know that's something you've done as a full book. That's something you've done as a chapter. So, and it's different every time. So how was it for this book?
And it is different every time because the story that, like I said, I didn't realize what I was going to be writing about until it all started flowing out. I attended your workshops that you had. You had 3 of them, and you gave us instructions on things to think about. And I just love that about her. Y'all, I mean, if you ever get to work with Corey, I highly suggest that
I
because she's
did
so
tell
valuable.
her to promote me.
You didn't, but I mean, it's my true feeling because she will guide you, and it's such a beautiful, soft, gentle prompting of how to think about things. Well, what I did learn when I mentioned the Spark method was when I was working with her as my writing coach. I learned that you don't have to write the first, second, third, fourth, fifth chapter in sequence. It was bogging me down. What I came to do is I put notes up on my wall, and it had chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and I did not fill in the blanks. And I saw all the pieces coming together, and that's how the book came about. With this one, it was different because it was just a chapter. So there had to be, like a thesis. Every good thesis, you have an opening, an ending, and a middle. There's 3 parts to it. How do you fill in the pieces? Well, I knew what my storyline would be, and I knew how it ended, but I wasn't sure what was going to go in the middle. And that's what did not plague me, but perplexed me, I guess I would say, because there were a lot of pieces I had to hone in and figure out. Did I learn from this? Was this the piece that made the difference? How did I do this? And if I knew then what I know now, what would I have done? And that's kind of how I wrote my story.
Very cool. So I like that you talked a little bit about how the writing process can be more organic, because I know a lot of people think I have to start at the beginning and end at the end, which is also why people think they have to have a title before they start their book, which is totally not true either. So thank you for sharing about all that stuff. So I'd like to kind of dive into what your story is. And, can you share a little bit about what you wrote about?
I wrote about my first round in college being given a scholarship
Mhm.
to become a music therapist. And I know I just briefly mentioned that, but I knew that I knew that I knew this was the direction I was going to go. I left home. I was 2 states away in college. There was no internet. There was no phones. You couldn't just call the parents. If you did, you had to call collect. You didn't have cell phones. And it was troublesome being in an area, not as a teenager going off to college, but in an uncertain field. And I did not realize the magnitude of what then a music therapist would have to do to actually pioneer and go into the world and become what today is a critical piece of people's well-being, like when they're dealing with their emotions or their physicals issues there. Music there, we all walk to a different beat. We all have a different song that plays in our soul. And if you can tap into that, you can do amazing things with people. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? It's like, can I get an amen? Because we all love various types of music.
Mhm.
Well, I did not know through that process of going through music therapy, walking away from music therapy, because I was a lover of music. I was a drum major. I was in the band. I was in the drum line. I played a flute. I sang. I was in all the musicals. But here I am in college going, what do I do? And that's when I said, I wish I had the life coach in me to be able to talk to the music therapist in me, because I gave up a scholarship. Now, what? I did. And then I married and I walked away from it. I put my music down. Now, I'd been trained since I was a child. I learned by ear, I played by ear, then I became trained in piano and in theory. Music theory is not my favorite thing as a musician, but it's okay. We all have to have it as a musician. It's good. But I learned that I play better by ear, like I flow better by ear. And so going through the things in my life, someone said, why don't you pick up some classical music? It'll help you think. When you're meditating, it'll help you meditate. And I'm like, I don't understand that. Okay. So I tried to listen to some, and it wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be in my life. But one day I went back to college and it had nothing to do with music therapy. My soul had opened. I became open. I put on Piano Concerto Number 2, Opus 18 by Rachmaninoff, and it changed my world. I did not know then it was going to change my world, but every time I put on music to study by, because you study really well with classical music or soft jazz or light international music that has no words, just music, I was transformed. Like the super seller gonna go make all the A's Sue showed up.
Mm.
And I just said, let's do this thing. And I continued to listen to this music. And what happened was that piano concerto became a concerto for my life. And I didn't know it because it spoke to me. It moved me. It elevated me to a different level. As I was listening to that music, I was finding answers in my soul about life, about how to succeed um, in business as a businesswoman. And then I was getting a human resource management degree with an intensive minor in business. And it took me places I didn't know that it could. And when I turned this music on, like the hairs on my arm just raised. It's that. So I hope that those who are listening today will actually take a moment and listen to it. Maybe it's not your flavor. I know you might have something else that you enjoy listening to, but just take a moment and listen to this, because it has ebbs and flows and crescendos, and you bring it down and there you are, and then you bring it back and you dance and you almost cry for a moment, and that's life.
Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah.
And through that, when I went to school the second time around and got my degree, I met a gentleman named Dr. Glasser. And I trained with him through a couple of classes, and one was called control theory, which is now choice theory. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know the impact of choice theory in life until I got through that. And I took that with me. And now today, I exercise in some of his work through life coaching. And so life is an ebb and flow. I didn't become a music therapist. I became, a life coach, but I ebbed and flowed. I was a banker for 26 years. As you know, that's in my memoir, the book she just showed you. And so that's the thing that I know through ebbing and flowing, through pain, high, low, happiness, laughter, sadness, whatever. There are incredible stories in here that if you had told me back then what I'd be doing today, I would say, here, take it and make your life. It's going to be okay. But I didn't know to do that. And I stressed over it. And when I started writing this, it was very cathartic. I sat down and I wept. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Because young Sue missed it. Perfectionist young Sue missed it. And God said, no, not at all. You walked away from it, but I had it for you. It's a little different. And also now I play my music differently. I play by ear. I play, through flow. I let it happen. It opens up. And sometimes I sit down at the piano or play my flute. Last night I was playing till 2 a.m, listening to TikToks and this guy playing on, and I'm like playing this thing with him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm coming alive again. It's so cool. I play by ear and by soul. It's my soul that's coming out. And it was very healing to young Sue to look at adult Sue and say, it's okay. You turned out okay. You went through life and you found your way all the way through it. I went through, marriage and divorce and single parenting and remarrying and blending family and trying to be the boss lady of, banking and creating ways for other people, other women to come in and establish yourself in these roles. And now I leave, and through cancer, I wake up in a story. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm in life coaching. And now I am a life coach, and I'm an author, and I'm a darn good author. And I'm I'm a best-selling author. And I say, thank you, God, that you took me on this path, that we have stories to write about, because I'm not finished.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. That was Amazing. And I love that you compared, listening to music to life, the way you were talking about it. And I know I'm a music person too, so like I totally understand all the stuff you're talking about. Um, and it's something that I've actually compared to writing too, which is writing about our lives. Um, when you are writing, you'll see, if you're reading a story, you'll see there are crescendos. There are places where it gets very loud. There are decrescendos where it gets very soft, where it speeds up and speeds down. And, the feel of the music change. It might be staccato. It might be more smooth and flowing. Um, and
Yes.
you'll notice those kind of things in stories too. And I think that that's, just being somebody immersed in all of these arts, it's so interesting to see how they all compare and how they all work together and feed the other arts too. So like the music has fed your creativity, and which has fed your ability to be produce music, and fed your ability to be a life coach, which in itself is an art, because you're guiding other people and you're their conductor. You're up there saying, all right, we're gonna take it from the top. Let's start here.
Exactly. And let's break it down, because some of these notes are not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
When you go to play that instrument of life and it is not okay, it is not going to be fun. The last thing you want to do is go practice. The last thing you want to do is go really make sense of life, or go work on your goals, or dream again. And I found that it's so important to dream. And if you had mentioned to me, like I said, that I would be writing, I'd be, but now I'm dreaming about what I'm writing. I'm dreaming about what's next. And I would have not thought in the imposter Sue that I'm not an imposter. I am someone who has these stories. I'm gifted with my life. If you have a life, you have stories.
Yeah.
That's what's so beautiful about it. And the real interesting thing about this story is that I fought and fought and fought and fought with it until I actually turned that on. But just before I turned that concerto on, I went to see the unusual movie, Tar. And the tortured conductor resonated in my soul and what she was going through, how she was dealing with life. And sometimes we just feel like we're the destructive, but collectively you can bring it together and make this beautiful melodic piece that will flow. And again, not everything's perfect, not everything's going to be high, not everything's going to be low, but you can flow through it and check the beat that you're walking to, and have really great people surrounding you so that you can have that balance of life as you're walking through your stories.
I love that. So I wanted to kind of wrap up, because you gave us so many things to think about. What would you tell someone who is, thinking about writing their story, about sharing? Because you have such a unique story and these unique pieces. So I'm wondering what you would tell somebody else who's thinking about, all these pieces that they have. How would they do that?
That's a great question. Don't be afraid to listen intuitively and allow that flow to come out of you. Write it down, date it, go back and look at it. Chances are that may be the beginning line of your story that you will write. We all may feel like we're imposters, but trust me, like I said, we're not. You are not the imposter of who you are. Be brave and be bold and step out in fear. Do it afraid. Step out and write something. If it's just a little paragraph, and put it somewhere and let someone read it. And don't be afraid of feedback, because when you get the feedback, that helps you grow as a person. And that is your story. And remember, that is your story. It's not someone else's story. So hang on to that. And your story is amazing, just like you are. We are so blessed that we get the privilege to open up our eyes every day and live these crazy lives and give the gift of a book, a story, a chapter, a line, whatever it is. So just do it.
Thank you for all of that. And your story is amazing too. So thank you for sharing it in Unleashing. I
Thank
did want
you.
to say Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic is.
I'm
Go
so
ahead.
excited. I want to say, like, the authors are amazing. I don't know all of them. I know most of them, and I have the privilege of getting to know them through this process. But Corey, thank you for the work that you did with the anthology, bringing us all together, putting our stories together like this. It's beautiful inside and out, and it's a gift. When we were launching yesterday, I was more excited for everyone else in this process because I've done this and they were doing it for the first time. It was awesome.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
beautiful. It's a beautiful book.
It's very exciting to do it for the first time. This is, I don't even know what number launch this is for me. This is like our fourth one this year. So,
Congratulations.
yeah, but it's so exciting every single time to see everybody, especially with an anthology, to see everybody come together and spread the word. And I love seeing everybody's friends hop on and share it and everything. So yeah, so wonderful.
Nice. Lovely.
And I did want to say that Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic, what was I going to say? Number one new release yesterday, and we are sharing the love today because we're celebrating that win. So we want to make sure that anybody else who still has not gotten your copy, go in and download it from Amazon for 99 cents. It's an ebook version. I will put the link in the comments. And Sue, thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom with us and for joining us today. Could you tell everybody where they can find you?
Thank you, Corey. I mean, this has been amazing. I really appreciate my time with you. You can find me at revupwithsue@gmail.com. You can find me at www.suefattibene.com. That's my website. You can find me on Facebook, Sue Fattibene, or Create Your Exceptional Life with Sue out there on Facebook as my business. I'm on Instagram. I think I'm songbird_Sue, and then I'm on TikTok.
Oh, you beat me to that. I'm not on there yet.
It's fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. Sue's going to put the links in the comments. So if you want to connect with her, if you have questions for us, drop those below too. We'll watch for them and answer them. And, go grab a copy of this book and enjoy these fabulous stories.
Yes. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.